Hi, everyone. This is Rich Berliner from Connected Real Estate and Fifth Gen Media. I'm here today with Chris Wixom from Connectivity Wireless. He is Chief Revenue Officer and one of my first interviews back from my little hospital stay/vacation. So, Chris, it's wonderful to be with you today. Thank you for taking the time to chat with me.
Hey, Rich, it's good to see you and good to see you so healthy.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm a lot lighter, so if I start to float up to the ceiling, I'll try to hold on. So, Chris, give me an update on what's going on at Connectivity. You know, you guys are a company I know very well, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of things that are happening in the business and with you folks. So, give us an update on what's happening.
Thanks, Rich. Well, first of all, I'd say it's just an incredibly interesting time in our industry, right? On the one hand, we've got the challenges of COVID and everything that goes along with that. But on the other hand, you couldn't think of a better time in our industry with the launch of 5G, with Wi-Fi 6, with CBRS and private networking, new applications. I mean, just think about the difference that we can make in the operations of companies that we work with and day-to-day lives and how we live them. So I just very excited about that. And then on top of that, it's just an exciting time for Connectivity Wireless. So we will probably grow somewhere between 50 and 60% this year, believe it or not.
Wow.
And you know, so that brings a lot of opportunities where it's fun to grow the team and be adding headcount and thinking through where we're going to go with 2022. But for listeners that really don't understand or know Connectivity Wireless well, we're fundamentally a managed wireless service provider. So we do all things connectivity. It doesn't matter whether it's 5G or the cellular world. We also get heavily involved in Wi-Fi in some major institutions across the country, and then also public safety and private networking with CBRS. So we really are all things wireless. Which makes it a lot of fun to kind of integrate in these different technologies. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say that's an amazing growth rate in this business climate with what's going on with commercial real estate. So what do you think is the sort of the secret sauce as to why Connectivity is being so successful and growing the business so aggressively?
Well, I'd love to say it was the sales team.
Well taken. Well put.
But I think the truth of it is it has a lot more to do with our technical and operation teams. I think whereas a lot of our competitors and others out there really struggle with the performance of these systems over time, I've had the fortunate experience of going out and meeting with many of our customers. Doesn't matter whether it's like the other day, Rich, I was in New York City and had the great fortune of going into the Freedom Tower and meeting with the Durst organization, which we work a lot with. And it just gives me great pleasure and honor to be involved with the Freedom Tower. But then to have Durst respond to us with, I kept pinging him, Rich, I kept pushing him. What can we do better? What can we do better? And they were just really excited, not just about our implementation and what we're doing, but also how we support them ongoing over the long term on monitoring, maintenance, and overall performance. So I think one of them, it definitely is the technical and the operations side. I think the second thing that we did is we created a dedicated carrier team led by my counterpart, Tom Atenopoulos. And that just means that we can move much more quickly in coordination with the carriers, bringing them, onboarding them, and driving that kind of smooth experience for our customers. So I think the relationship with AT&T has particularly helped. And then I think we've got the right mix of pricing and financial packages, I guess, which we can talk about later. But I think in this, we talked about this kind of world of change. Everything is happening so fast. And so for us to come in and put in a solution that can evolve over time, I think that's another good thing that everybody likes, is that we're not just going to put in something that performs the first year well. We're going to put in something that evolves over time.
So one of the things that, since I'm back in the saddle, the real estate guys have been calling and they want to know what's going on. What's going on? What's happening? What do you see out there? And so I think it's really important to kind of stay up on these things. So from your seat, there's a lot going on, as you've mentioned, but what do you see in the carrier world? Again, you mentioned AT&T. Is the business coming from the carrier world, or is the business coming from, what I'm hearing, it's the responsibility of the commercial real estate owner or the property owner to put this in? What are you seeing in that situation vis-a-vis the carrier versus the real estate owner?
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you. The carriers are definitely spending less. We see AT&T pretty active out there in the in-building world. T-Mobile is jumping back in. The tricky part about T-Mobile is they've got a long backlog because they were in hiatus as they worked through the merger with Sprint. And then Verizon, I think, they just invested $40 billion in C-band. And so they're doing a lot with 5G and C-band and other types of things on the macro network. So we don't see them as active as they once were. They're still active. It's just not, they're not investing as much as they used to. And as part of that, connectivity is more important than ever. So many
and connectivity wireless.
See, I almost made that mistake. But I think that the enterprise customers see this as a fourth utility. I think we talk about a lot in the industry. And so they're investing in it because they know it's important, and they're kind of filling that hole as the carriers back off a little bit.
So what's the technology that everybody's hot for at this point in time? Are you getting a lot of calls? Well, I need to put 5G in, or I need to put this in, or they have sort of a preconceived notion on the technology, or basically, are they doing the right thing and using you to advise them on what technology they really need?
I think it's the latter, where we're advising them on the technology that they really need. I think a lot of it is still really connectivity for handsets and providing tenants or customers or whoever it is that's in the building, fans, connectivity to their handsets. And that's starting to shift a bit, right? Where it's about applications and driving operational efficiencies and digital transformation for the business, where it's going beyond the handset to think about applications, location-based applications and other types of things that can really change how the business operates. And so that's a transition that I'm excited to be participating in, and I think will accelerate. So what do you think, Rich? What are you seeing?
I agree with you. I think that they need to come to you and ask, what's the right thing for me to do based on the size of my building, based on my tenant roster, based on a whole series of things. But, one of the things that I think is most critical is that in the discussions they're having with me is, well, how do I kind of future-proof this? How do I not buy the wrong thing right now? And my attitude is, if you're making sure that people's cell phones work in your building, there's really very little that you're going to have to look at later and go, oh, I wish I hadn't spent this. But there are new technologies that I think will fit together nicely with what you're suggesting they put in. How do you view that in terms of what are you suggesting they do so they don't wind up, with a Model T or something rather than an electric car, a Tesla?
It's interesting. I was just writing this out for a customer. I think there are fundamental things to avoid. I do think our technology is changing pretty quickly. And so if you create a base infrastructure that gives you the flexibility, I think we were talking about this the other day, Rich, create the flexibility so that you can evolve with things that you may not necessarily know are going to happen. And then certainly there are many things that we know are going to happen over the next 3 to 5 years that you can prepare for. We know that C-band is going to become a really important frequency. It's a lot of spectrum, and the carriers are going on. Verizon wouldn't spend $40 billion on it if they weren't going to use it. So you want to be prepared for it. And there are a variety of other frequencies that are coming down the path as well. So that's number one. Number two is data is, I think we were talking about this too. Data is very important. As much as you can control the data and own the data and what you can do with that and monetize the data, you want to do that. And I think the opportunities to do that are going to change. It used to be you could really only do that on Wi-Fi. Well, you can now do that with private networking, with CBRS, and with 5G and network slicing. There's probably a lot of opportunity there too.
Yeah, so I think I understand what you're saying in terms of making sure I've got signal in my building, making sure I've got public safety signal in there so that the cops and the firemen can do what they need to do if there's an emergency. But what about all the other stuff that's out there in terms of the smart building piece of it? Do I want to put in the IoT, or do I want to put, some other technology in my building? That goes part and parcel with this. Are people asking you to set them up in the building so that they have all the smart building capabilities, or are they mostly concerned about cell phone signals so people can dial 911, people can make phone calls, they can receive customer phone calls? How do you view that, and what are people asking you for?
Yeah, I mean, certain customers are different. So there are a variety of customers out there that we all know that are heavily involved in building automation and IoT and looking at the operations of whatever they're doing, whether that be in a stadium or in a commercial high rise. How do I do it better? How do I reduce my HVAC cost by 55 cents a square foot or something like that? So there's certainly a lot of that discussion out there, but I would say the majority of the discussion is more around, at this point, how do I provide connectivity for whoever's in the building, whether it be my staff or tenants or what have you. I'm seeing that shift, but it's still primarily how do I provide connectivity.
So Chris, given that you talk about the Quick Connect solution, there are a lot of people in the industry, real estate folks that I've talked to, that are interested in this area, this sort of, pay-as-you-go situation. Can you tell us more about it and, how it works and what the benefits might be?
Yeah, I think the Quick Connect, and thanks for asking. I think the Quick Connect solution is a tremendous solution that we have. A lot of our customers are taking advantage of it. It's for a situation where you want somebody to handle A to Z. So full turnkey, we're going to come in and provide a managed service that we own and operate. So you don't have to worry about anything. This includes the design, the performance, the implementation, as well as things like carrier coordination. People don't realize how important that is. And having a dedicated carrier team that has the relationships and the contacts both at the high levels and at the regional allows us to go in and have a very smooth interaction deploying these technologies. And so that's the first thing. This is a situation where we own and operate the solution. The other thing is, this is a long-term contract, so it's usually a 10-year type of situation with automatic renewals, and so it takes a large capex sum that a developer or a building owner would have to deploy and spend, and then takes that and it creates monthly payments that you pay over a long time. So you would think there would be a cost of capital to that, right? And because you're deferring your payments, a large lump sum payment over a long period of time. But interestingly enough, we're so aggressive that if you take what you would pay upfront compared to what we do with Quick Connect, it's actually about the same cost to even a little bit less expensive. And so it becomes a very compelling situation whereby you're deferring your costs. You're enabling us to do and focus on the connectivity in your building, and so that you can focus in on your business. And the third thing it does is it becomes a bridge, because what happens is we'll deploy the system, and in many cases, the carriers will invest in the system, and if they provide any monthly reoccurring investments or plug-in fees back to us, dollar for dollar, that goes back to the building owner. So we've got many customers out there that have chosen to do this quick connect solution to expedite and get the build going immediately, to defer the costs that we were talking about, but then also have the benefit of, if the carriers do come on and make a contribution, that goes back to the customer. And many of these customers are now paying $0, and it's a free system.
So one of the things we didn't talk about that I would like to at least cover is the public safety aspect of all this, putting in public safety DAS. One of the things that's important is dealing with the AHJs, the authorities having jurisdiction. So, I'm trusting you to come in, put this system in. Now I've got some, not too educated AHJ who's a local building inspector who's got to come in and give me a clean bill of health on my public safety DAS system. Are you there with me, holding hands and helping me through that part of the process too?
So it all depends. If we go back to the beginning of the conversation, right, we're all things wireless. So we get involved in Wi-Fi if you want us to. In many cases, we're doing an integrated build, which drives some cost efficiencies between Wi-Fi and cellular. In many cases, like at Angels Stadium, we're actually doing CBRS Wi-Fi. We just did a Wi-Fi 6 upgrade there. So we're doing Wi-Fi, cellular, CBRS, and public safety in some cases. So my answer is different depending on what you contract me to do. If you're just having me do cellular, then that's what I'm responsible for, and that's what I'm going to deliver. If you want me to do public safety and cellular, then absolutely, certainly, I'm there hand in hand with you, working through the AHJs, working through the local regulations. In some cases, you can do an integrated system. It's still parallel, but it's leveraging the same passive infrastructure. In some cases, you can't. So it really depends on the local county or city ordinances.
Gotcha. So that's an important thing, and that's something that landlords now increasingly, as the regulations change, are asking about. But that's very helpful to know.
Thanks, Rich.
So, Chris, one of the things I did want to ask was, what are the mistakes you see landlords making that people should be aware of from where you sit in terms of the deals you've done? What are the mistakes that these landlords make?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think it goes back to the flexibility that we were talking about earlier, right? Make sure you have flexibility, whether that be flexibility for technology's sake, that whatever system that you put in can evolve well. I've seen many situations where landlords or whoever they're working with don't plan for that, so that's a common mistake. Flexibility in the contract is another one. Don't get locked into a contract because you think you're going to get something out of that contract and the partner or company that you're working with doesn't perform. So one thing I always recommend is you should have some type of performance clause in the contract to make sure that whoever you're working with is going to perform. And one thing I think I mentioned earlier, you've got to check references and talk to customers and see what the existing relationships are, because that's going to tell you more than anything what your relationship is going to be like with this partner that you're partnering with. Are they going to stand by you during the difficult times? And that's something I'm just very excited about Connectivity Wireless, that we are that type of partner.
Yeah, and also the capitalization of the company. Is this, two chucks in a truck, or is this a company that's got, significant backing and can perform what they sign for in these agreements? So I think that's an incredibly important piece.
It's funny, I didn't even think about that, but you're absolutely right. I mean, for these larger systems, it's millions and millions of dollars that your partner is putting up to put these systems in. And so they have to have very, very strong backing. And feel very fortunate to be in that situation with our partners, our financial partners.
Yep. So one last question that I think is interesting is how often do you go into a situation in a real estate environment and you've got 2 or 3 or 4 people or however many people sitting at a table, and one guy definitely thinks they need to put in 5G from the get-go, and another guy says, no, I think we should be putting in this from the start, and the third person has another concept. How often do you go in and play mediator on what the right outcomes might be for that situation? And do you find yourself being sort of the referee in those circumstances where different people in the organization want different things?
It's amazing how many times different people in the organization want different things, whether that be the legal counsel, the business owner, the facilities. We will often get on calls, and the negotiation will be internal to the company we're working with, and there'll be some pretty potent arguments going on in the background, and we will help the company navigate through that, because there are different desires and needs in different parts of the organization that lead to that. To your question on 5G, I think that question is rapidly going away as 5G becomes more and more real. But what I would say when we get into that argument is that's okay. Put in 4G today, as long as you have a system that provides a clear enough signal back to the base station. You don't want noise in a 5G environment. It's not a good thing. Then it's very easy to upgrade those base stations from 4G to 5G. In some cases, it's just a software upgrade.
Got it. That's an important aspect to this.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So Chris, thank you so much for enlightening everybody, talking about your Quick Connect solution. And I strongly recommend that people reach out and contact you to talk about these things and get educated if they need information. How can people reach you?
Thank you, Rich. Would love to talk to people, would love to answer questions, help with strategy or thinking through how to evolve a system over time. Also to explain more about our Quick Connect service and what it can mean for building owners and developers and the like. To reach me, please just call or email me at cwixom, W-I-X as in Xerox, O-M as in Mary, at connectivitywireless.com. Also, we've got an incredible amount of information on our website at www.connectivitywireless.com. And we're doing quite a bit on LinkedIn too. So please follow us on LinkedIn and you can see what we're up to. Case studies, things that we're doing, and it's quite fun.
Gotcha. Chris, that's really helpful, and I hope people will reach out because I strongly recommend that this is an important aspect for them to get educated on. And you're one of the major players in getting people to understand what's going on out there. So thank you again for being with us today. I appreciate it very much, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Rich. It's been a pleasure and good to see you healthy and up and about. That makes me happier than anything.
It's good to be healthy. Thank you.